Hey there, welcome back to Tennille Talks. Y'all, so there are two people, actually three people who come up in this reading, but this is about an earth angel and a divine masculine that cross paths with one another. Now, in the center of the reading, also in the center of the relationship between the divine masculine and the earth angel, is somebody that comes up as a boss. Now, this boss was a connection for the divine masculine. This is not somebody that was in the earth angel's life. Now, my handmade card that comes out in order to clarify the divine masculine says, when there is no enemy inside, the enemy outside can't hurt you. So this is almost like, and normally when I'm talking about the enemy being inside or outside, we're talking about literally when you yourself, when you have an enemy in your mind, or when you are at war with yourself, then you will see that physically manifested in your physical material world. And so this is giving me the energy of the divine masculine having an enemy in his camp, and not recognizing that somebody that he would have considered to be a boss, a person of status and power, he kind of put this person on a pedestal. He's now become enlightened, or he's now become aware that this boss had some type of jealousy that they were feeling when they were watching the divine masculine's life unfold. Now, at some point, the divine masculine crosses paths with an earth angel. He shares this information with the boss. Now, I'm going to go off on a tangent real quick, but this is what I'm thinking. Sometimes when you're driving reckless, maybe you've been drinking, doing drugs, maybe you don't have a license, broken taillight, no insurance, any of those situations, we'll just call it riding dirty. Sometimes when you're riding dirty, the safest thing to do, because I've definitely driven this way before, is to take the back roads. Because a lot of times we feel like if we know we're not up to par, if everything isn't right, we kind of want to minimize the risk. Like we recognize we have something to lose. And so in order to protect what we have to lose, which if you're driving a vehicle and any of those things are true, like it's really about losing your freedom, right? Your ability to be able to travel. Your mobility, losing mobility. If I want to continue to be mobile, but I got to ride dirty for a little bit, like I'm going to take back roads to make sure I can get from point A to B with low risk, because I'm already playing with fire. So imagine that a divine masculine is riding dirty and this boss says to him, oh, we can hang out. Like, come on, don't stay home, come hang out. And he's like, nah, like something's wrong with my car, or something, I don't have this, or I don't have that, or I don't want to drink and drive, or I don't want to do drugs and drive. And he's like, nah, don't worry. When you go home, you can just go home on this road. Nobody drives on that road. There's nobody out there. That's the road everybody takes when they ride dirty. So the divine masculine agrees. And it's almost like this reading is giving me the boss. And at some point, the boss acts as the third wheel enemy in the relationship between the earth angel and the divine feminine. And so on the same road that this boss told the divine masculine to drive down, it is also a road where he sent a professional. So imagine that there is a friend who tells you to take a back road so that you don't get in trouble. But they also have a friend who's a state trooper. And so they tell their state trooper friend, hey man, I got a buddy, he's not listening, he's driving drunk, he left my house, he'll probably be crossing so-and-so intersection in about an hour. Do you mind just sitting there and picking him up when he gets to the four-way stop? You understand what I'm saying? And so he's in the divine masculine's life as like a confidant, somebody who's protecting him, but on the back end, it's like this person has some type of jealousy. And on the same path he told him it was safe to go down, it is also the path that he set something up in place to make sure that this divine masculine was caught up. This is what this reading is saying, but it's also revealing that the divine masculine is just recognizing that this is taking place. All right, so let's get into it. The very first card I pulled was Disruption. Now, in this deck is called Disruption. In traditional tarot, it is called the Devil card. And so this is the moment where the divine masculine has broken free from a devil. He has broken free from an enemy in his camp. Any of the enemies that the divine masculine met on his path, they were really a reflection of how close he had an enemy in his emotional circle or his close circle. Fine. To cross paths with an earth angel, this meant that something in the divine masculine's life had the ability to expand, right? This is a moment from where you got it like a country boy going to a big city, and they didn't have to travel anywhere. They just had to cross paths with a specific energy. And it almost looks like this divine masculine crossed paths with an earth angel, and in the center of this reading, you have this boss. Now, this boss is coming out in the energy of peace, kills jealousy, or jealousy kills peace. And so this divine masculine, and you know, when I think about driving dirty, it is almost like, no, it is like, you know, our vessel. Sometimes our body is not up to par energetically. Maybe we're not in alignment. Maybe we do have some habits that kind of keep us trapped in our shadow. Maybe we have relationships that aren't really healthy. And so sometimes we still have to get our body from point A to point B. And so this is about a divine masculine who has told his entire story again and again. He's revealed the contents of his days to this specific person. And in the back end, this person is making sure that the enemy that this divine masculine is like battling within also shows up, like he's making sure to stop him at calculated points. And it's because there's some type of jealousy. Now, I don't know how deep the connection or the relationship goes between this masculine and this boss, because I have the card of 2 bodies, 1 soul. Now, when I first read that, I was like, okay, so maybe their relationship goes a little deeper. Like maybe there is, you know, enmeshment, like, you know, not that it had to turn into anything physical between the two, but like there is some type of unhealthy connection, right? And so now I'm thinking about a grown man that would put another man on a pedestal to the point that they wouldn't be able to think with their own mind first. It's almost like I can't think with my mind unless I reach out to my boss and understand what he thinks. Once I understand what he thinks, now I know what I should think. Like that is the energy. So now this takes me back to childhood and possibly this DM, divine masculine, having some type of childhood trauma where like they attach themselves to people because they think that it makes them feel safe. If I attach myself to a person who has power, naturally I'm going to benefit, or I'm going to get some perks from their power. If they have a platform, if they have status, if they have pull, if they have anything, just by being in a connection with them, that bleeds over. This divine masculine, I feel, internally has felt like he doesn't have power. He feels powerless. So imagine being a child, not being able to talk, not being able to physically feel safe as a result of abuse, whether it's physical or sexual. But just think about somebody's safety being so compromised. And even though they're walking around in the suit of a grown man, they don't really know how grown or how capable and able they are unless they have bound themselves willingly. They use their free will to do this. Unless they have bound themselves to somebody else that society deems all things that this divine masculine really wants to be. He already is, but he doesn't know he is because he's running a program from when he was small. He was vulnerable. He was overlooked. You know what I mean? And so when you don't know your power, you attach yourself to people that you deem to have power because it makes you then feel powerful about who you are. This is what the divine masculine did with this boss. So there is something that is unhealthy. And when I see pure love and 2 bodies and 1 soul, but it comes out in the energy of jealousy, like that's not pure love. And that is a soul that you don't want to be one body with. Okay. But this is also somebody not recognizing that the enemy was literally in their camp. So in order for this divine masculine to cross paths with an earth angel, all of a sudden an opportunity in his life opened up. We're just going to call this opportunity peace. Okay, now to know that this DM had the ability to cross paths with an earth angel, to experience a level of peace, it is almost like the jealousy inside of this boss started to kind of like spike a little bit, right? Knowing that there was some type of unknown territory, but at the same time, because there's a divine connection, it is actually a territory that is protected. It is a territory of promise, right? Like there is a legal destiny that connects this earth angel and divine masculine. And so somebody intervenes, but because the divine masculine is riding dirty, they're riding around in a vessel that they really like haven't secured. And so now they have people close to them that are tricking them out of their spot. Now, the divine masculine, because they're going through their own tower moment, after you break free from the devil, after those chains are off, when the tower falls around you, that is like the life that you were living while you were bound to the devil. All the lies you told yourself, the way you deceived yourself. Listen, to find out that this person that you thought was a boss is really a jealous devil, there have had to have been many times where you saw something, they said something, they did something that was just off or foul, but you went into your mind and convinced yourself that that devil is not a devil. They are And then you fill in the blank with all of the ways that you would describe them, because it feels good to describe them that way, even if that is not who they are. And so that's what I mean about sometimes we literally use our free will, mentally bind ourselves to a devil, and then physically in this world, we are actually bound to one too. So the divine masculine was supposed to expand his horizons. In order to expand his horizons, he would have had to walk a very narrow path. Although this was a narrow path, this was a path where the Most High was present. This is where protection, this was a path that was a part of a divine plan. But I don't think, or actually I know, sometimes one of the reasons why our inheritances, and there's many ways that we can receive an inheritance, our greatest inheritance as a human is called our free will, like your ability to choose, right? Like that in itself is something that we have inherited just by being a part of this third dimensional reality. Like this is what happens down here. Now, the foul things come in when somebody attempts to manipulate energy in order to take your choice away. There was a divine path that would have led this masculine into unknown territory called peace. Although it was unknown based on what his life would have been, this was the exact space he needed to be in order to have a rebirth. If this divine masculine continued on a path with the earth angel that was uninterrupted, he would have gone through a rebirth. He would have gone through a new beginning. But in order to have a beginning, in order to have a rebirth, there's got to be something that must die. And that energy is coming out with this boss. And so this is this boss not wanting to hear about the peace that this divine masculine is feeling when he's with this earth angel. This is about this person being stubborn and arrogant. This is about them really recognizing that the divine masculine in this boss's eyes is almost like a possession that they own. And so if this divine masculine goes with the earth angel, he loses a property. He loses an asset, like he loses an investment. Right? But that's not love. We talked about two bodies, one soul. So either this person becomes jealous that real love, pure love is going to exist now, or he almost had some type of obsession. He was like bound to this, they were equally bound to each other in a very unhealthy way. That's not necessarily one-sided. It's doing something for both of them. No matter how sick and toxic it is, they both benefited from this connection. And this is the very connection that tells him to unsafely drive down a road in order to conceal the fact that he's riding dirty, right? And at the same time, does something on the back end by moving in the shadows. It says that this boss moved in the shadows of this earth angel. Okay, they moved in the shadows of this earth angel, and the energy that he experienced when he was living in the shadows, right? So the divine masculine is in a relationship with the earth angel or any type of connection, but the boss is connected to the divine masculine. He almost acts as a third wheel enemy, and because he's so connected to the masculine, now the masculine is just a portal for this boss to go in and out of this earth angel's energy. And so the earth angel is being described in this reading as a wondrous universe. To walk in the energy of an earth angel is like to be able to walk in beauty. And so these two, I'm just going to say masculines, have been so together that when one of them finally is presented with an opportunity that is very much aligned with their divinity and their destiny, one doesn't want to let them go. Right? And so they sabotage them. They sabotage them so that they are not, and I will get there. Anyway, somebody just didn't want to hear about what was in store, and so they compromised the connection. They get the divine masculine to stutter step. It's like they don't want to hear it. But what they do, this is almost like, listen, it says if you get on the wrong train, get off at the nearest station. The longer it takes you to get off, the more costly the return trip is. This is like the boss convincing this masculine to walk away from the earth angel only so he can go play in the energy, right? Or convincing them to kind of have the energy of patience and planning. And that, okay, so here's another level. Imagine if this boss said, I just want you to string them along. Like, don't really commit to them, just string them along. So we have patience and planning. We have difficulty to find the right words. We have indecisiveness. And so this is like Somebody recognizing that you have shown up in somebody's life. But guess what? They don't have you in their life. And so in order to sabotage the connection, you have to compromise this person by telling them, don't go forward, whatever, string them along. But the entire time that the divine masculine is holding on to you and not really committing to you, somebody else is using this as like a highway. At this point, the divine masculine just becomes a door that is opened and closed for this boss to move through in order to dip in and out of the earth angel's energy. Now, the legal destiny, meaning the divine masculine and this earth angel have a legal destiny. Like legally, y'all were supposed to be connected with each other, but you had to take action. Like somebody had to take action. And because the first person in this reading, this means that the divine masculine was supposed to be bold, was supposed to be courageous in order to take action. But if this is somebody that can only think when somebody else tells them what to think, or when somebody else tells them how to think, then they are not going to take action unless they are told by the person that they have given their power to. Okay? Now, this boss not only is stubborn and arrogant and jealous, but they're coming out as a third world enemy because they're going in and out. They're getting on and off the train of the earth angel in order to experience this wondrous universe, right? Called divine energy. But we also have the energy of a professional. Now, this is where I got the idea of like calling in a state trooper to make sure that they were on the back road in order to stop this masculine, in order to kind of like hem them up a little bit. In addition to this boss being able to walk in and out of the energies, I feel like he went to a professional. When I see this type of professional, I'm reading it as like somebody who does some type of supernatural magic or witchcraft that would give him access, right? And he's like, hey, whatever, right? So 2 parts of this. The destiny between this divine masculine. Now, I have a card here. It talks about the crown chakra. The crown chakra connects to our spirituality. Between the ages of 21 and 40, the psychological themes of our spirituality developing within us happens between us having self-knowledge, a spiritual connection, meaning like you finally start to build a link in a relationship that is authentic. It only belongs to you and source, or you and the Most High. And then it's like, this is the moment where you start to put together the pieces of what it means to live your life purpose. So between the ages of 21 and 40, the destiny that was supposed to take place between this divine masculine and this earth angel, it's like it had been, courage would have been needed. Like this divine masculine was supposed to be developing courage, right? Because there was going to come a moment in time where they would cross paths. But if this is somebody who is literally taking out their brain in order to adopt what somebody else tells them to think or how to feel, it's like they weren't preparing. And so when you come, they're in unknown territory, which means they're exactly where they need to be, but because they didn't have the courage, because they weren't using their own mind, their own heart, their own spirit, because they weren't tapped into self, because they didn't develop their spirituality, they didn't develop their self-knowledge, they didn't understand or think that there was any more to life. There was no greater purpose except for whoever this person is that they have put on a pedestal, right? And so the spiritual connection was gone, meaning they didn't foster it within themselves. So they got tricked out of their spot because they would not have been able to foster that connection with the earth angel. All right, y'all. So that's pretty much the reading. I'm going to start to clarify. The first card I'm going to clarify, it says, when there is no enemy inside, the enemy outside couldn't hurt you. And so this tower moment that is happening in this DM's life is because they recognize finally who they bound themselves to, maybe as a friend, a father, a confidant, some type of leader, some type of wise counsel. And so we have the energy of mindfulness, mind and body. So when this tower falls, for the very first time, it seems, this divine masculine breaks free of devil energy. Listen, the only way that this would have happened, the only way that the divine masculine would have gotten, and at some point, it doesn't really say that this earth angel has left or has walked away, But I feel like this earth angel has got to be out of this divine masculine's life for him to finally break free of this devil and the tower to fall, right? Because you can't hold on to an earth angel, pure, authentic, divine energy, while also being bound to a devil. Like, you can't sustain both types of connections. And if you think you can for a period of time, at some point when the collapse comes, you will have to lose one. And if you don't choose and take action and courage because you know who you are, because you have spiritual knowledge and spiritual protection, or because you're moving towards your life purpose, then a lot of times you will be tricked out of your spot. You will give up the very thing that was supposed to birth you into a realm that you've never existed in before. Like, you give up your rebirth in order to live the same death again and again. The next card I'm going to clarify is talking about the throat chakra and how this divine masculine either was abused by his boss, or because of the abuse that he carried in his youth or childhood, caused him to be very indecisive. Like, he doesn't understand how to find the words. And so imagine if you've never been able to be authentically you. Imagine if you were abused and you couldn't tell anybody. You know, think about all the ways that our throat chakra is damaged. And so just because your body grows, it doesn't mean that you develop and mature, right? And so when you don't feel like you have power, you find people that have the very power that you recognize you don't have. And now that person becomes your mouthpiece. And so if the divine masculine was in a period of patience and planning, not knowing how to communicate, being indecisive, not knowing how to step forward in order to kind of like walk on this divine passage, like it just revealed not that they had been abused, but they were still in the process of being abused. Like, they had given their power away even in their adulthood, just like they lost it as a child. But 21 to 40, these are all the years where we are supposed to recognize where our true power, our true source comes from, right? Okay, so difficulty finding the right words and indecisiveness, which really means you should have been on your divine path, but like, you didn't know how to do it. They didn't know. They didn't know. They didn't know. All right. I had too many. And so we have unexpected income. Now, unexpected income comes with abuse. So this is what I'm saying. You know, in order to walk to the divine path, you don't always know if you're going to be stable, safe, or secure, because it is unknown territory. And so the relationship that you have with the Most High, it really matters in order for you to take a step. Because the way things worked and sustained you in the physical world, it is not necessarily going to flow like that once you get on your spiritual mission or life purpose. And so this is somebody trying to make sense of the spiritual path that they would have had to have walked on with this earth angel. But when we have the energy of abuse, this is almost like the boss who's in the center of the reading, almost feeding them pseudo stability, right? And them not recognizing that money or receiving unexpected income. And this is also giving me another thing. It is almost, you know, just like the boss set the divine masculine up to take the back road so that he gets caught. This is also like him setting him up to do something specific to the earth angel, because he understood that he divinely would not have been able to come back from that. And so maybe this DM was abusing the earth angel, right? And he was receiving unexpected income. Now, as long as this earth angel was abused and had a connection to the divine masculine, this boss could dip in and out of the energy. But if the divine masculine was willing to hold space, right, to keep the earth angel locked into his energy, dragging his feet, acting like there's a lot going on, it was really because he knew he needed to be a portal. If I'm a portal for this person to dip in and out of your energy, I get money for it. The next card I'm going to clarify is if you get on the wrong train, get off at the nearest station. The longer it takes you to get off, the more costly the return trip is. And so this is about, listen, in the shadows, under the moon, this is when they would get on the train, which is the wrong train. Whatever was done to the earth angel's energy, it happened during specific moon phases, right? They would get on the earth angel's train, they do whatever they have to do over the moon phase, they get off. right? So they'd experience this wondrous beauty, and then they get off, and then they go back and experience your energy again, and then they get off. And so this is what was happening. And so you're in a connection with the divine masculine, but that person is really in a relationship with somebody that they call boss or daddy, and they're using one another to be portals to be able to take and pull specific things during certain moon phases. The next card I'm going to pull is going to be for crown chakra, which is about the development of our spirituality between the ages of 21 and 40. And so in order to like really be in a position to experience our full wheel of fortune and our full destiny, we would have had to acquire and learn. If you want peace, prepare for war. So in the center of the reading, I talked about peace killing jealousy and jealousy killing peace. And this is almost like somebody recognizing like, oh, you think you're going to go over there with that earth angel and have peace? Well, if you think you're going to, this is giving me a relationship that was actually a little more than just mentor. This is giving me something a little deeper. If you think you're going to go over there and have peace, well, then I'm going to give you war. And so this is somebody who essentially finds an outside party, aka the state trooper, to make sure that they intercept this masculine in whatever way they can, right? Like this is a nasty energy. So the same enemy that this divine masculine has been carrying around is the same enemy that abuses the earth angel energetically. But because it's the earth angel, the tower has fallen on the divine masculine because they didn't recognize they had an enemy in their camp. And not only that, not only did you recognize you had an enemy, but then you and your enemy got together to abuse the energy of the earth angel. Like you got to pay for that. And you being abused, or you being lied to, or you being mishandled, or you being threatened, you know, about being able to have your own freedom as a result of it is not a reason. It's not like, well, I did it because, you know, they were going to put me in some type of war. They were going to put me in a legal situation. That's not an excuse. All right. So the final deck I'm going to use is called Cosmic Energy Oracle Cards. The first card I'll pull is going to talk about expand your horizons. And so when the divine masculine crossed paths with the earth angel, all while having an enemy in his camp, it was because he needed to expand his horizons. And so the earth angel comes in as some type of inspiration, trying to inspire this masculine to have harmony between heart and mind. You know, I feel like in the mind of the masculine, his ego is saying that this relationship with the boss is great. But the heart is saying, no, this person's abusive. You are their possession. Like you have to do seedy things in order to receive some type of income. Like you can never evolve and be the greatest version of self when you are bound to this devil that you have given your power to. The next card I'm going to use, the next card I'm going to clarify, talks about the desert passage. And the fact that this masculine would have had to walk a very specific way in order to trust that there was a divine plan. But because this person couldn't do that, they had to use the plan that was in somebody else's mind in order to understand how to walk next to this earth angel. And the plan that they were given is a plan that caught them in a tower. It also caught them up in a legal situation, some type of legal war. And they lost their earth angel. It doesn't tell me that the earth angel walked away, but I feel like when the earth angel leaves the building falls. Okay. So trust there's a divine plan. Universal wisdom. And so this is like, okay, are you going to use his brain or are you going to use universal wisdom? Like who are you going to tap into, right? But this is somebody being swayed by money. This is somebody who wasn't willing to seek wisdom or guidance from any other source except this person that they put in the center of their world, almost like the sun. This was their sun. This was the sun for the divine masculine in their world. And if the sun didn't say yes, or if the sun didn't say no, or if the sun didn't give approval, or if the sun disapproved, then that's just what it was. That was the law. But this person shits and eats and does everything you do. They put their pants on the same way, but to give all that power away, there must have been another time in life where all the power that this masculine had, either as a juvenile or a child, was taken away to the point that they never felt that they could have it again. I'm not making an excuse, but this is like how the energy is feeling. All right, the next card I'm going to clarify is Wondrous Universe. And this is about using the phases of the moon to walk around in the beauty of the Earth Angel's energy. And so we have prayer. Prayer is a dialogue with the universe. Express your wishes. And so this is giving me two things. Earth Angel, during the same time that they were using your energy to walk around in your beauty, maybe you yourself had moon rituals, or maybe you just have a relationship with, it's like they should have never have got on your train because it was a divine train, right? And so you have passengers on your train, but you also have a proximity to the Most High that these people don't have. And so they were going to have to pay more and more and more the longer they did this. The higher the amount of moon phases that they walked around in your divine energy, that is the higher the cost that they have to pay in order to get back to a state where they have balanced this type of karma. Now they have to pay a debt until the karmic books are balanced. The final card I'm going to pull is going to clarify, take action with passion. The fact that this destiny would have required, it dropped, hold on y'all. This destiny would have required this masculine. It says, grace is the universe's blessing. Open up your heart to receive it. This is the masculine having no root, like literally needing to go to war. This masculine, in order to open up their heart, in order to receive the Earth Angel, it meant that they had to go to war. They were going to war about their spirituality because this is a divine path that they were supposed to get on, right? But, and even when we say suppose, just because the Earth Angel showed up, it doesn't mean that they were supposed to get on. It meant that it was a time in their life where they had to get off of something else because finally your divine path has presented itself to you. Now, are you fit to get on it? Are you going to recognize it? Are you going to compromise it? Are you going to gamble it? Yes, if you haven't been moving in the proper energy during the development of your crown chakra, like if you haven't developed the aspects of self that would have revealed to you the right move and the right choice, just because it shows up doesn't mean that you're fit to take it and carry it. Doesn't mean that you have to. But what it says is it is now time to balance. At the point when your divinity presents itself to you, prepare for the towers, prepare for the chains to be broken in the false world that you built up. This is about balancing the books. And so this is almost like the Earth Angel being some type of accountant. And you show up in somebody's life and they couldn't imagine how the connection and the relationship to you would have benefited them. Like they couldn't see it. And it is because they had somebody else that they had put in a position of power that was dominating their mind, their thoughts, their moods, their emotions, and their pockets. Somebody was feeding them money in order to make them feel full of pride and full of power and ego. All right, y'all. I love you. That was the reading. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.